Greetings, brothers and sisters. Welcome to Africans Arise live stream. This is going to be a quick conversation about the Small Axe finale, which was called Education, and which streamed in the UK, which was shown in the UK on the BBC this Sunday just gone. So Sunday the 13th of December 2020. So I'm going to give you some quick thoughts about the show, and what I will say as well is to put it in your diary that this coming Friday, let me just put it right in your diary right now while we're talking. I'm going to be discussing the whole Small Axe series with a number of very esteemed guests, which I'm quite I'm quite excited actually that they'll be joining us. So this coming Friday, so the timings for in the UK, it's at 3:30 GMT, and in the United States, it's 10:30 a.m. EST, Eastern Standard Time. And this is going to be hopefully the first of a new series called Black Diaspora Groundings. And this is going to be a series, hopefully recurring series, where we get brothers and sisters coming onto the show, coming onto Africans Arise, or on other channels for that matter, to kind of chop it up on different topics, news items, cultural things that pertain to the Black diaspora. So check that out. That's Friday, this coming Friday, the 18th of December 2020. Make sure you like that video as well and set reminders so you don't miss it. But yeah, like I said, today we're going to be talking about, where am I? Here am I. Today we're going to be talking about Small Axe, the education series. So I want to shout out to you, Mind and Matter, aka Mind Over Matter. Big up yourself. You're the one who suggested to me to get the live streams up and running. So thank you for that. I'm loving the live streams so far. Hope you're good and the family's good on your end as well. And yeah, so Small Axe Education. It'd be interesting to know what you guys thought of Small Axe Education. As I say, on Friday, we're going to go into things in a lot more detail. We're going to discuss it in a lot more detail. But personally, I was quite positive about education. I thought it was really good. Let me just put it on screen so you guys can see what we're talking about here. Small Axe, where are we? Small Axe, in case you don't know, if you're not in the US, if you're not in the UK and so forth, Small Axe was a series that was produced by Steve McQueen, who directed 12 Years a Slave, I believe. And he directed 5 films, which were all about the Black African or African Caribbean experience in the UK, various historical kind of little snippets. And yeah, there were 5 of them all together, and this was the last one on Sunday. Shout out again, yeah, Mind and Matter, peace. And so let me give you my thoughts on education. I thought it was good. I thought it's about an hour long, and it begins. What I like about the film is that it starts and it ends on a kind of on the same kind of vibe. So right at the beginning, it starts with this little boy here, he's part of a school, and they're watching a video all about space and the stars and the planets and all this kind of stuff. And what I found interesting about that was that when the voice that was talking was an American voice, clearly a white American voice, and he was giving all these Greek names to all these stars, and he was saying Andromeda, this, and and that struck me because funnily enough, I was with my son, and we were playing. I was like doing a robot, and then I started doing a robot voice, and okay, Mind and Matt, you said you haven't watched it, so I won't give too many spoilers. But I was doing a robot voice, and the robot voice I was doing was I was like, hello, my name is Robot. And it just dawned on me that, I've been socialized, growing up, robots were always American, and robots were always that kind of like nasally American whiny voice. And I was like, why am I putting an American voice on to be a robot? And so I switched to like some generic African accent, you know, because I don't want my son to associate robot with American. But the fact that this film started with him, the little boy. Oh, I can give the spoilers. Good. Okay. Mind and Matt says I can give the spoilers. Wicked. So let's spoil it up. Yeah. So the fact that this film starts with this American, this white American giving the voiceover, kind of speaks to what the film's kind of going to be about. Because at the end now, we have another scene which is talking about space, but rather than being some American, it's him, the boy, is speaking about African history, and it's spoken over this like you know, these images of planets and the stars and so forth. So that's basically the arc. You go from one end, which is where the little boy, he starts off, you know, he's in this school, he's being basically bullied by the teachers because he can't read properly. He's being, you know, lambasted, and he's being typecast and made out to as if he suffers from special educational needs. And as the film kind of progresses, what you see is that he's so yeah. I'll just give you some of my thoughts. I've started watching films and making notes as I watch the films. It's probably not good. My wife's not pleased with that, but this is how I kind of carry on. So I'll come back to how it ends. But one of the things that a lot of people I know don't like about this particular film is that the family dynamic is really harsh. The family home is really, really harsh. The mum, the first time you see the mum, she is screwing. She's walking through the streets, walking home, and she's screw-faced like this, you know, really unhappy, got the burden of the world on her shoulders. Turns out she's a nurse. She works nights. She's coming home from work, and she gets in, and she's still screwing. Her screw face is on. She doesn't say hello to her husband, the husband is there cooking or getting ready to go out to work. So, you know, it's in the morning. The boy comes downstairs. He doesn't eat his breakfast. He runs straight out. No one really says good morning or anything like that. And then the daughter runs out as well. There's no love. It appears that there's no love in this household. The husband just goes off to work, barely says bye, no kiss to the wife, no nothing like that. And I know a lot of people I know people are not going to like that because it feels like a really tense and down household. But actually, I thought to myself that, okay, yeah, this is a little bit weird. But then again, getting into it a little bit more deeply, the fact that, you know, racism and all of the things I've been talking about in my last few videos has an impact on family life. If you're living in a dread situation where there's racism left, right, and center, and you're struggling to make ends meet, and you're working like the mum, she then goes out to work again in the daytime. She's working 2 jobs and so on. That kind of environment, that kind of hardship, of course, you're going to. It could well have an impact on your family dynamic, and so the household is harsh. The family life does seem to be lacking in tenderness and you know, and so on. But I think I would read that as being like a bit of a representation of how life can be for Black people in this country, and particularly for Black people in this country in those days. So, Mind and Matter, you said typically tense household stereotypes. Yeah, so it is that kind of stereotype, yeah, of Black people being like all tense and cold and a bit brutal and a bit, what's the word, like just austere, you know. But exactly, it's real. We can't have it all, you know what I mean? We can't. Oh yeah, we can't be saying, yeah, it was really, really hard in those days. It was really, really tough, really, really peak, really, really brutal and tough and dread. But in the house, it was all great, and we were so happy, and everyone loved each other. No, this is what happens. You carrying the burden of life on your shoulders, and what often happens. I mean, this film didn't go into it, but what does happen? You do have domestic abuse as well that can come out of that. And actually, there was something. There was one scene which was a bit much. I said that, you know, they do show abuse, because I think there's one scene where the mum beats the boy. Because anyway, I'll come back to that in a minute. So there's that's one aspect of the film that, you know, will get some people wondering, and maybe some people won't like it. But for me, like we're saying, it reflects how the hardship of life can be manifested in the home dynamic, you know. So then so the boy goes, you know, there's a scene where they're reading around the class, and the boy can't read his from the book, and then the teacher calls him a blockhead, and, you know, really rebukes him. And then some next white girl starts speaking, and she speaks like some sort of BBC TV announcer. She's like, "Hello, yeah, I'm speaking very posh and very clearly." Well, the boy, he literally couldn't read. So shout out Temi Lola, big up yourself, my sister. Good to be back into contact with you. And yeah, like you say, agreed, you're dealing with very hostile environment, financial worries, and so forth. Yeah, exactly. And sometimes there's like I don't know. I mean, maybe this could feed into some of our reluctance to actually deal with some of these problems. Is that maybe some of us are trying to pretend like everything's fine and everything's, you know, kosher, but in the home, when it's not, you know, it has an impact on our domestic environments. So yes, so he's basically, you go through school, and then he gets in trouble for doing some silly thing that boys do or children do. He's singing some naughty words to some song, and he gets kicked out of the class. He gets kicked out of the class quite roughly by the teacher. And so it turns out that basically the mum is called to school, and the headmaster, you know, this really condescending headmaster, says, yeah, he's a troublemaker, he's disruptive. They say that he took an IQ test and that his IQ is low. And he basically railroads the mum and the child and say, look, he's got to go to the school, this special school. He's like, it's an opportunity for you. It's an opportunity. It's a real opportunity. It's a second chance. And the boy's protesting. The boy protests to his mum later on and says that, look, I'm being picked on. The children are picking on me, but the mum doesn't listen. The mum won't listen to him at all. And it seems like the sister kind of knows, because he tells the sister later on. The sister seems to be aware that he can't read, because he can't read. He just can't read. Although at one point he does say, I can read when I know the words, which is interesting. And my wife was like, well, that means he can't read. I was like, well, yeah, maybe. But that's another thing. Well, I didn't like it, but again, I think it's a reflection of, unfortunately, some of the family dynamics that we can have in some black families, because the mum won't listen to him. You know, he's saying he's being picked on. The mum's like, basically, what? Shut up! You're just stop behaving yourself. And I think to what, you know, in a lot of films and TV, you know, back in the day, you'd hear a lot of second generation black immigrants talking about how, you know, they would be trying to tell their parents about how the police are beating them up, the schools are picking on them, the this, the that, the other. But their parents, who had this still had this mindset of England is streets paved with gold, and, you know what I mean, we've come to mother country to just do, you know, to prosper and succeed, and they see white people and Britishness as just the pinnacle of humanity and everything's great. They didn't listen. And I think that was a good reflection of that. Unfortunately, I think of, for example, I could never tell my parents that the teachers picking on me. Never. It didn't even cross my mind to ever say that. Other children did, but I could never do that, because my African parents, my Uganda parents, would be like, you're chatting nonsense. You better stop messing around. If the teachers are picking on you, it's because you're messing around, you know? And that's a shame. That's a bad dynamic, I think, because it means that, you know, the children didn't have allies. They didn't have people on their side. And that really comes out in the film, actually. So mind the matter, yes, stress increases the likelihood of domestic violence. People like to sweep the realities under the carpet. Yeah, I've avoided most relationships because of potential abuse. Wow, okay. Yeah, and parents ignore their children and bury their heads in the sand. Yeah, then end up blaming the child. Exactly, and that's what happens. The boy, at one point, the mum basically batters him and shoves him against the wall. And for me, that was like, you know, there was no need for that. And it's such a shame, unfortunately, that to this day, but definitely back in those days, there's still that kind of mindset amongst too many parents that, you know, the way through to your children, you know, the way to get your children to listen is to, and you know what? I'm not even going to front. It is hard to refrain from doing that. You know, children are hard work. My children are only young, you know, but there's been plenty of occasions when I'll be there and I'll just be looking at them like you know, the oldest one in particular, and just like, you could probably get, you know, and that's immature. In my opinion, here's what I think. In my opinion, that's immaturity on my part to want to turn around and beat up basically a 2-3-year-old boy. It's immaturity. You know, he's a child. Children are children. Of course, they're going to challenge. That's what we do as children. That's how we learn. That's how we learn our boundaries and so on. To jump automatically into physical is a mark of, I think, is a mark of immaturity. Not saying that you never should use any physical force or whatever, but I do think I have a problem with what I hear from some people as being like, just, you know, at any drop of a hat, boom, you know. So yeah, so he says he can't read. So he can't. He's trying to say that they're picking on him, but they won't listen to him. And then his mum beats him. Now, mind over matter, you said that your granddad started at 80 years old. Oh, yeah, I think I remember he started at 8 years old, starting teaching a 15-year-old relative how to read. His mother was saying the boy couldn't learn, but he reads well now. And you know what? I think there's a what's the guy's name? Ivan Illich, who's this academic guy. He basically argues that you can teach anybody, or is it Paulo Freire? It might be Paulo Freire, the guy who wrote the demagogue. What's it? I can't remember what the word is. Pedagogy, not demagogy. Pedagogy of the oppressed. He basically says that you can teach anybody to read in something like 30 hours or something. That's all you need. You just need 30 hours and you can teach anybody how to read, as long as, you know, they can see. And that's what it takes. This, you know, it doesn't matter how old you are, you can start to read. And that's something that comes out in the film later on, which I'll talk about. Temi, you said that you haven't seen the episode. Okay. Sorry about all these spoilers, by the way. I'll try and skip some of these, so I'm not spoiling everything. You said that you haven't seen it, but the responses resonates. But the responses I've seen to it resonates. You've got your own experiences with the education system. Luckily for your mom, you knew what the school system was like, and that's the thing. Yeah, parents, we've got to be in our children's corner as Black parents in particular. We have to be in their corner, because you cannot just be assuming that they're being treated the same as everybody else in the UK school system. Anyway, let me skip. So yeah, like I said, it seems like the sister kind of knows, but eventually she's gradually trying to tell the mum. What switches for the mum though is that basically some activists get involved, some Black activists get involved, and they persuade the mum eventually that yes, look, sorry, I didn't say that the boy gets taken to this special school, and the special school is anything but a school. It's anything but special, and it's anything but a school. Basically, the teaching is non-existent, and they're just it ranges from like some girl who basically barks and makes animal noises to this boy who is just a normal boy. He can't read, and there's some other girl as well who's clearly, you know, there's nothing wrong with her except possibly she wasn't taking any crap from the teachers. I'm not sure. Temi, you said your mom was told that you would never be able to lead a normal, independent life. Oh wow! So they said that you were special needs, etc. All before the age of 4. She fought them all the way, and that is how I am. That's how you are where you are today. And I know that where you are today, you're a highly educated sister, very, very conscious, very aware sister, and exactly. And that's what this film basically gets at. To cut to the chase, the film basically gets that these activists are pointing out that in those days, at that time, there was basically a conspiracy against Black children, where they were pushing them into so-called special education. And in those days, they were called educationally subnormal. And that's what was happening from that day until now. From that day, West Indian children, as they were called, or African children from the Caribbean, were being labelled as being educationally subnormal. And then the thing is, to this now, the rates for African children being labelled as special educational needs are lower than Caribbean children. But I'd say the reason for that, because African and Caribbean children, we're the same. Genetically, we're the same. We look this, do you know what I mean? We're the same. The only difference is that the people who come from the Caribbean came earlier, a few decades earlier than most Africans have come to this country. They've gone through that whole experience of being, going through all of that racism and stigmatization and being put into these special needs classes. And from there you get special needs, then you're more likely to get suspended and expelled, and you're more likely to end up in prison, basically. And that all of those things are going to impact on your life chances. And one of the things that's interesting is that the dad basically can't read either. The dad can't read, he's trying to push for the son to basically forget about school and just start to join him doing the trade that he does, maybe carpentry or something like that. And again, that kind of speaks to a common situation amongst, I know, Caribbean families where a lot of men are involved in trades. A lot of my in-laws work in the trades. You know, they're Jamaican, and it's not because, they were just stupid or whatever, they were lazy or whatever. I think a large part of it is that, look, that was a sensible option based on where they were, based on what they were facing from society at large. And actually, nowadays, I'm like, maybe I should have went into the trades, because I would be earning a lot more money than I am now, having gone down the kind of office kind of route, you know? Temi, you said, so you went to, oh my gosh, so you went to a special unit as well, full of children with serious learning disabilities until the age of 5. Wow. So you had a statement until the age of 11. What? Luckily, you weren't written off and you excelled. Wow. And oh gosh. And can you imagine the amount of children as well who didn't have parents or parents who had their back and so forth, where they would end up. So many of those young boys and girls who were involved in crime and all this sort of stuff could have been different for them if they had the right kind of support. And that's where maybe some of our organizations and some people like us need to kind of get a bit more involved in supporting parents and helping parents, like these activists in the film do, because what they basically do, they give us some books. There's a meeting in a town hall, and in that meeting, there's some, it becomes clear that there's a conspiracy. There's a conspiracy against them. Minder Matt said there is a cultural difference between Africans and Caribbeans too. African parents support their children academically a lot more, and you understand I'm trying to be politically correct. Do you know what though? If there's a cultural difference, that cultural difference stems from our histories, So the Africans who have come to this country, particularly Africans from Nigeria, Ghana, Uganda, to a lesser extent, there's not many of us Ugandans, but my parents were, my dad had a degree, and my mom was a nurse, but they came in the 80s, and yes, they had more of that focus on education and so forth. Yeah, there's no doubt. But I would say, and this is something that Akala talks about as well. He's not the barometer of all truth, but he makes a good point that Caribbeans also hold education in very high esteem. But what happens when you come to this country and you really want to excel, you want your children to excel, but then you find out all of this is going on. They're being kicked out of school. They're being told their special educational needs. They're being told they're subnormal and so forth. They're being, so many of them are being shoved into prison. They're being, I'm saying that experience basically is going to rub off, and you're going to end up with people who maybe are not really so confident in the education system anymore, and they are going to look for different kinds of routes. And I'll be honest with you, education is overrated. I think formal education is massively overrated anyway. There are so many Africans who are so highly educated and yet can't get can't get a job above entry-level positions, you know. But anyway, that's so I'm not trying to be politically correct, honestly. I don't want to offend anybody, but also I'm not trying to gas people up. I do think that there's reasons for some of the cultural things, that cultural behaviors that we might think are a little bit retrograde or whatever amongst certain groups. Yeah. So the other thing I probably will. Okay. So Mind and Matt said they are like that back home too, not just in England. I've been there. All right. Yeah. Well, again, what's the history of people in the Caribbean? You know, that's not their indigenous home, is it? You know. Again, not to say nothing is ever our fault, but I do think it's important to always remember, well, why? What's the context in which we have developed some of these attitudes and so forth? And anyway, wow, that's a big big conversation now. I'm starting, or you're starting, Mind the Matter. Temi, you said that your mum's Caribbean too. Yeah, Jamaican. I knew that. Dad's Nigerian, I think. They went through an awful lot when they came to the UK. Your mum grew up in Jamaica and also lived in Nigeria, which I think makes a difference too. Yeah. And then Mind the Matter, you said, yes, I'm right. Schooling has blocked many. Trades should be encouraged. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's the trades, and it's interesting. There's a bit in the film where, the daughter is reading the book to the dad. And there's a section that she's reading which says something like, and black children are being, the book, I wrote the book name down in case anyone wants to watch it. It's called, where is it now? It's a book by Bernard Cord. I think that's it, which is a Grenadian guy. And he basically outlines this conspiracy. But the daughter's reading this to the dad, and she reads the bit that says yes, and they're being shunned. Black children are being forced into jobs which are low skilled and repetitive. And basically, the idea is that the dad's supposed to be like, "Oh, that's the kind of job that I'm doing." But you know what? A lot of those jobs, which you might say are low skilled, carpentry, plumbing, electrician, they're not low skilled, but they're not, those kind of roles, you're going to need those kinds of people all the time. You're never not going to need people who can fix stuff and make things work, practical things, because we're always going to need somewhere to live. I understand that automation is going to change things a lot, but then automation is also going to make a lot of office jobs redundant. Even law. Tell me, I know you got that legal background. I remember reading a report about how in Japan somewhere that some company was basically like getting rid of a bunch of their legal staff, and they're basically gonna turn it all over to artificial intelligence. So automation is coming for all of us at the end of the day. But this idea that those jobs are low skilled and demeaning or whatever is a silly negative stereotype. And I've only learned that now in my as a big man. I've only now really come to understand that when you, in the last few years, that when you see someone who's got overalls on or paint all over their hands or whatever in their hair and so forth, that doesn't mean that person is poor and struggling and unhappy. That means that person, is most likely got a lot more control over their destiny than I have, probably self-employed and so forth. And frankly, it's me. I'm the one who needs to be, what do I offer to the world in my job? Nothing really that's essential, I'd say, which is why I'm trying to put more effort into this kind of stuff, because I think I've got something to add with regard to, this stuff. Yeah, academia is so overrated. Any education has to be geared towards innovation and problem solving. Absolutely. And the question there is, whose problems are we solving? As Black people, we need to be solving problems that pertain to our people. Omar, my brethren, Omar, yes. Trades are often cash-rich sources, yeah. And you said here, the issue is cash is perishable long-term. Always throwing curveballs, this brother. I don't know, just why? Why are you always throwing curveballs in there? So yeah, that whole kind of trades versus I don't know what you call it, like officey clerical work conversation is a big conversation to have. I know that you know me, fam. Omar knows me. I don't know why he's just joking. This guy's Jamaican, by the way, so you know, just watch him. There's some statistics that I'll bring up maybe one day, or maybe I'll do a video on this, because when you look at the proportion of Africans in this country versus the proportion of Caribbeans in this country who are in those kinds of trades versus like office work or whatever, clerical work, Caribbeans are much more likely to be in the trades than the other kinds of work. And again, I think that does speak to this kind of history that these films have been focusing on. So yeah, it's a really good film. I won't go through every last single thing about it. One thing I will say is that an important thing is that one of the most heartwarming things about the film is that the mum eventually sends, once she wisens up to this whole thing, she sends the son to a supplementary school, a Saturday school, Black Saturday school, and that kind of brought tears to my eyes, because the boy, whereas for so long throughout the film, and like the thing with the boy as well, he was really, really into space and astronauts and so forth, but he basically was being trampled down so much that by the time he's into that special school for a period of time, he starts to do at one point his mum calls him and he's like, he does an animal, he like barks or something. So it's like, what's happening? There's also a scene where he's on a bus with all these children from the special school, and whereas before he was like constantly trying to get out, he's like there rolling on the floor and just getting involved in all the chaos and whatnot. And you know, on one side it's like, okay, well, it's kind of, you know, children do need to be able to play, but it's clear that he's just dumbing himself down, kind of thing. He's just settling into what he's been put into. And there's a quote from one of the mothers, which is something like, "If you treat children stupid, they're going to act stupid." Yeah, if a teacher think him stupid, I'm not going to do it. Sorry for the accent. There's actual Jamaicans in the house, so let me not do it. You know, if the teacher treats you as stupid, you're going to act stupid, and that's what kind of happens to him. But then they go to the Saturday school, and it's so heartwarming. It's a brilliant scene because it's in someone's home, this woman's home, and that the sister was just going to drop him off, but then the one who's the teacher's like, "How about you know where you go? You come as well. You don't want to learn about Claudia Jones?" And the woman's like, the sister's like, "Who's Claudia Jones? Come in and learn about Claudia Jones." And it's a Black history thing. But anyway, they sit down at the table, and there's these boys there who are having like a times table competition, and the boy Kingsley is there, like really fascinated. He's like, "Wow, this is amazing." And then they start to have like they start to teach. The woman starts to teach, basically saying, "Okay, I've only got 3 sausages left, but there's too many of you. But if I split them in half, how many will I be able to give out?" And you know, they're like 6, and it goes to show education that's embedded in your community, embedded in your life, in your culturally relevant to you, you're going to start to thrive. And that's what happens with him. Then they start telling the story about, I think it's about a Nigerian princess or something like that. I did a good job of the accent, mind the matter. Okay, good. Show that to Omar. You're watching that. Good job on the accent. Yeah, and then they start reading this African history book, and then this is basically where it ends. Is that one of these watotos trying to call me down? Yeah, he starts to gradually trying to read this book, and he's like, you know, struggling through, and then it cuts to they're at home, and the boy is running upstairs, gets this African history book. The book, by the way, is called something like African Kings and Queens for Children or something like that. Yeah, Kings and Queens of Africa for Children. This is the name of the book, and he's struggling through, and he's like, this is story, and like he's pushing through, he's getting there, and it's just so nice. The mum's crying, I'm like welling up as well because I'm a bit funny, emotional like that about things like that in films. And yeah, he starts to read the story, and it's a story about Africa and a particular part of Africa and so forth. And it segues out because he's reading the story, and then it's narrating over this scene of space and the planets and the solar systems and the stars and so forth. And that image, those visuals are much more vivid and much more colorful than the black and white kind of basic ones that were at the beginning when that American voice was talking about the stars and that. And I was just like, yeah, well done, Steve McQueen, because he kind of squared the circle. He squared the circle. Yeah, that's the book there. Kings and Queens of Africa for Children. Thank you, Mind and Matter. It squares the circle because whereas before he was there, like, you know, being spoken to by this white American voice, at the end now it's African history and it's over the same solar system, but it's more vivid and he can read and he's owning it and it's about him and it's great. So for me, it was a very good film, very, very good film. It's only an hour long, so you know, watch it today or whenever you watch it. I really do recommend it. I would say it's probably the best of the Small Axe anthology. Mangrove's the best until now. Potentially Education might possibly match it, although Mangrove has still got a place in my heart. And yeah, it was great. So Temi, you said that you're a product of the Saturday school system. It was crucial back then. It still is. I'm really glad that the program drew attention to their crucial role to this day. And that's the thing. That's like the big, I'm really glad because it's kind of blown that whole conversation up again. You know, one of the conversations that me and my wife have with regard to our children here is like, how can we make sure that our children get an education that is relevant to them and, you know, culturally suitable for them, that is going to focus on their African identity, their African heritage, their African being. And supplementary schools are definitely going to be a part of that. I want to shout out the Al Kibalan Revivalist movement as well, based in London. I think they're based in Leighton in London still. They run a Saturday school. There's many Saturday schools around different parts of London and also different parts of the country as well. And yeah, they are very essential. They help to bring us someone like a Temi, you know, and yeah. Mandamata, you said that you think this is where the powernomics conversation comes in. Black people need to be at all levels of the economy. I think where the powernomics type argument comes in for me is, how can we make sure that we're supporting things like these Saturday schools, these supplementary schools? How can we make sure that, you know, organizations which are campaigning on our behalf have the support they need, have the resources they need, the financial resources and the people that they need and knowledge that they need, skills that they need and so forth. That's where I think we need to be working. You know, did I miss a comment here? There was someone. Yeah. So that's what I think. Temi, yeah, definitely watch it tonight. I definitely recommend it. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts. I know I'll hear on Facebook. So yeah, check it out, man. Check it out. Everyone check it out. I highly recommend it. And yeah, that's me ready for now. What I want to just do is to remind everybody that this coming Friday on the 18th of December, there's a space missing there, my bad. This coming Friday on the 18th of December at 3:30 GMT, which is 10:30 a.m. EST. Again, I'm going to be doing this. No, that's not the right one, is it? That's it. Hold on a sec. I'm going to be doing another live stream, but this one is going to be reviewing the Small Axe series. So it's not going to be just me. You'll be pleased to hear this. This is going to be a conversation with 4 other brothers and sisters. We've got Jared Ball of I Mix What I Like, and I'm gonna really send out a big shout out to Jared Ball. You know, because Jared Ball, he reached out to me. He's got he reached out to me and got me on his stream and has joined a lot of my streams. And he is basically he's catalyzing something of a movement here on YouTube and on other channels, because he's bringing people together. He's had so many people on his show. He's had African Esquire on his show. He's had me on his show. He's been on other people, guests on other people's shows, Black YouTubers on their shows as well. And he's linking up. And I feel like there's a little bit of a movement that's kind of developing here, which I'm so glad to be a part of. You know, so he's going to be on it. Also, Dr. Keto Swan, with whom we did the mangrove review, he's going to be in this discussion. My brethren, longtime brethren, Kevin Bismarck Cobham, is going to be on this discussion as well. And my and a sister who has been I've seen on a lot of conversations with Jared Ball as well. Dr. Iyeli Ichile is going to be on there. We're going to be chopping it up with regard to the whole Small Axe series. So do check us out on Friday. Like I said, this coming Friday, 3:30 GMT, 3:30 UK time in the afternoon, and 10:30 Eastern Standard Time in the US, and however many hours back for all the different Caribbean time zones and other African time zones and parts of the world. So do check us out. Make sure that you like this video, by the way, and also make sure that you subscribe to Africans Arise, and also make sure that you check out Jared Ball, I Mix What I Like as well. So family, thank you very much for watching. It's been a pleasure. Shout out to Mind and Matter and Temi as well for all the interactions. It's been really good. It's been really good as per usual. And yeah, you're right. There's been a lot of Black documentaries of late. I think that's responding partly to the whole Black Lives Matter movement, or whatever you want to call it. There's a lot that can be critiqued about a lot of these things, but for me, someone like a Small Axe, for all its faults, like Lovers Rock, for all its faults, is serving a purpose and is really helping us to have these conversations and bringing us together, frankly. So yeah, so I'm just pleased this kind of happening and giving us some some things that we can reason over and discuss and maybe look to kind of better and top some of these things, you know. Anyway, all right, family, peace out, and I'll see you hopefully, inshallah, as the Muslims say, God willing, see you on Friday. All right, peace out. Oh. Mind the Matter, did I speak about the Sainsbury's backlash? No, I didn't actually, but maybe what I need to do like just a regular series, regular live stream thing where we just chop it up on whatever's just been in the issue. That's what one of the things I'd like to do with regard to the Black diaspora groundings thing, is to maybe like have a regular feature where we talk about whatever issues have come up in the news. So watch that space, my sister. All right. Peace out and see you on Friday.